The smell of tomatoes in the air, a breeze blowing through our whiskers. It's a good morning, huh? Wouldn't you say? And he would say it. It's a good thing he doesn't talk, otherwise I'd never get a word in edgewise. Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the Voodoo Garden. My name is Ray. I am the host of this nonsense, this little nonsense rascal. I am the host of this nonsense I lovingly call the Voodoo Garden, and my adorable co-host decided to join me today. Why? I have no idea. I was trying to set up the camera without knocking Miss Spider off her nest, because that's where the leg, that's actually where your leg is. Don't creep out. Yeah, you're right over there by the spider web. And then I felt something brush up against me. Well, I'm focused on this spider and all her babies, and I'm not afraid of spiders, but I'm so focused on this that when he brushed up against my leg, I just kind of jumped. Yes, I did. Hey, sweet potato. Sniff my sweet potato. He sniffs on command. This is the sweet potato vine. By the way, today I have a little new addition to the Voodoo Garden. And it looks kind of like an old member of the Voodoo Garden that I sadly had to get rid of. This is that variegated ivy that I had up in the corner over there. Well, I was rearranging the Voodoo Garden after I painted the floor and got everything all set up. Everything was fine. I'm walking around having a good time. And I look at this and it had spider mites on it. So yeah, I took it outside. I panicked. I just panicked. And took it outside, threw it in the asparagus, and that's where it is right now. Oddly enough, when I threw it out there, it landed on its root ball, and now it's growing in the asparagus patch. It's probably not going to survive the winter, but I didn't want to bring it back in. There were so many vines on it, and I didn't want to have to cut it back again. I just didn't want to go through that. So I got rid of it. I figured that's the end of it. I'm never going to see it again. Well, what's really weird is how the world works for me. We went to Walmart. Well, we always go to Walmart. It's basically the only store within driving distance around here. Every time I walk in to Walmart, the first thing I do is I make a beeline to the plant section, because you never know what's in their little hospital section where they mark everything down, the plants that time forgot. Well, this one was there. Yes, the exact same thing I threw out. This one was there. I gave it a really good close look. There was no bugs on it at all. They marked it down to $1.25. $1.25, and I couldn't say no. I thought, well, here we go. A nice healthy little replacement. So I brought it home, and it's going to be repotted today, and it's going to take the place of the one that caught the spider mites in the, you know, I really should cut these little tiny tips off of this thing, because I feel like I'm getting a shot every time I'm near this. These agaves have needles on the very tip of it. Yeah, well, it's, you know, they don't want to be messed with. But yeah, I'm going to transplant that today. I got to snip some stuff back, just a few little odds and ends, and something a little bit strange about this vine over here I wanted to show you today on the Voodoo Garden. My throat, you'll have to excuse my speaking. I mentioned this on story time over on the Praxis 55712 channel. I went to Walmart, and that was the day that I got this, as a matter of fact. I had just picked this up. We just went into Walmart, got our cart, Mike's following me, and I found this thing, and we congratulated ourselves for finding a new plant for the Voodoo Garden. Put it in the cart. I'm walking in front of the cart. We're taking a shortcut through the toy section of Walmart, and to get over to the food section. And right as I round a corner, I hear and I thought, oh no, you don't want to hear that. No, you don't want to hear a cough in Walmart. With school starting and the kids being around more kids, they're starting to pick up germs. They give them to mom and dad because, you know, kids like to share things. And apparently this mom was sick. Can't fault her for being sick. But what I can fault her for is right as I came around the corner, she blats one out right in front of my face, into my face. She goes, and she did it twice. And my first thought was, hold your breath. So I held my breath and I walked right past her, and then I breathed out. But apparently I caught something inside my mouth. So now I had this sore throat, the remnants of a really bad cold that I caught. My lungs were clogged up, my nose. You know how it is when you get a cold. Well, folks, if you're out in public and you have, I shouldn't even have to say this, and this has nothing to do with gardening, but it has everything to do with me being able to do my gardening effectively. If you're out in public, like say in a public place like Walmart, and you feel like coughing, even though nobody's around there, you might want to cough into your sleeve or bring a Kleenex or a tissue or something and cough into that, so that what's inside of you doesn't go flying around inside of the store, because I'm sure you don't want me coughing into your mouth and giving you anything. I would appreciate the same courtesy. And he just keeps wagging for no reason. I don't know what's going through his mind. Little happy thoughts. That's because we're down in our happy place. Yes, we are. Sick or not sick, but anyway, that's why I have a bit of a raspy throat today. I feel fine though. Anyway, I found this as well. Yes, I did. As soon as we got through grocery shopping, I thought, you know what? I didn't spend enough time over in the garden section after Typhoid Mary sneezed in my face. So what I did, or coughed in my face. So what I did was I went back and I looked at their pots. $1, $1. Yeah, it's got a drip tray attached to the bottom. $1. They're on clearance sale. I want to remind you, and I try to do this every year, towards the end of the growing season, a lot of stores are clearing out their gardening stuff. This is August, and they're clearing out their gardening stuff for Halloween. I know, it's crazy. They'd rather put out candy corn than pots. And so I found the last of one of these, and there were a whole bunch of other ones, but I just didn't have enough money. It seems really weird. You think I would save up some bucks so that when this happens, I have enough to go around. They had some huge ones too, and I thought, you know what? These ones here I've been using for ages, and eventually they're just going to biodegrade down and turn into soil because I've used them so much, and I've gotten some good mileage off of these. What I'd like to do is clean them out and donate them to the Salvation Army or Goodwill. Actually, the thrift store that we have here is Salvation Army. And I'd like to donate it to them so that somebody who can't afford full price pots can get these for like $0.10. And it would get them off my hands, it would do some good for somebody, and then I would have a really good excuse to go back to Walmart and buy those really nice, shiny, brand new pots and give the VoodooGarden a kind of a facelift, you know? Anyway, enough blathering by Ray. I want to show you something. This is something that thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Anyway, this is something that you normally see on pepper plants, sometimes tomato plants, but mostly pepper plants. And I was surprised to find it on this vine. And for those of you who are new here, can you guess what this is? Why, yes, it is Rascal's butt. But aside from Rascal's hind end, right here, look at this. Well, this, of course, is, for those of you who are southern gardeners, this is a sweet potato. Yes, it's a sweet potato vine. Somebody sent me slips, which are nothing more than little tiny starter plants that are rooted. They sent me those this spring, and come on. Is that just not the cutest thing you ever saw in your life? That's my little buddy. That's my little buddy, Tiny R. Yeah, I show him all the time because I love him so incredibly much, and he loves me too. Anyway, back to what you tuned in for. Actually, I know you tuned in for Rascal. Okay, just take the vine with you. This is a sweet potato vine. I took a clipping of it. It's growing outside, and I'll be digging that up later on in the season to see if I have any sweet potatoes. I took a clipping of it, and I rooted it. They root really, really fast. I stuck it in water, and it only took about maybe a few days, and it had all kinds of roots on it. Well, it's growing nicely. It was just this itty-bitty thing, and it's vining out. But look at this. It looks like somebody threw sugar crystals on it. Or if you don't look at it that close, it might look like a whole bunch of insects, right? Well, wrong. That is called edema. O-E-D-E-M-A. Edema. And it's a leaf issue whenever your plants are uptaking too much moisture and they cannot use it in their leaves fast enough, the walls of the cells will bust, and it will push that out, and the minerals and all this other stuff, the broken cell walls, show up as white. Well, what happened is it started that because it hadn't started its growing. Well, now that it's growing, you can see it's not doing that anymore. So if you ever have that on your pepper plants, don't worry about it. It's not an issue. It's benign. It doesn't, which means it doesn't hurt your plant. I think of it as plant acne. You know, it's young. It doesn't know what it's doing yet. It hasn't gotten started in life, and it has a little bit of issues that look kind of bad. But you know what? As long as we don't point at it and make fun of it, the plant's going to be happy anyway. That's my my sweet potato vine that I'm hoping, and it looks like it might, just vine and take over the VoodooGarden. It'd be kind of nice if it flowered too. But while I have you down on the floor, down and dirty here with me on, yeah, you know, my floor started out nice and clean and beautiful and freshly painted. Now, yeah, that's just what happens. It gets dirty. That's what it's like having an indoor gardening area. This thing is kind of living and dying all at the same time. I showed you this and you told me how to pronounce it, and guess what? I forgot. You know what it is, and I'll put the name right here. I'm not concerned about the pronunciation, but that's what kind of plant this is. And it's flowering, which is beautiful, but the flowers, they go and die. What I'm doing now is I'm clipping off these flowers as they die out and leaving the live ones. What that's doing, and what that will do for you if you're growing a plant something like this, it encourages new growth. See? New growth towards the bottom and new flower buds. And if you don't want the flowers, if you want the plant to grow, keep clipping off those flower stalks. It'll keep wanting to put them out, but you keep clipping them off, and what it'll do is start putting out more leaves and actually growing. Way down here you can see new growth. Way down between my fingers, yep. See new growth. Eventually I want this thing to be larger. They do get quite large. And the bigger it gets, the healthier it's going to be. I'm going to put it into a bigger pot, and I'm sure that the flower clusters are going to be bigger. That's the ongoing plan for this little booger. So yeah, it does look kind of crappy, but then again, the flowers don't stay pretty for long. They look kind of like little roses, but they don't smell. Now, they have no fragrance at all. But then again, not everything is about shoving up your nose. Some things are just pretty just for looking at them, and they got a couple different colors as it goes. It starts out with this pink, and then it turns a little bit of a purple. Yeah? Yeah, not so bad. Not everything is just a green plant for me. I do enjoy flowers, but then again, I kind of suck at growing them. So I don't grow them that very often. That was fun having our friends down here, huh? Yeah, he likes that. This tree, my tropical friend, requires a little bit more maintenance than I had assumed at first, but I don't mind. Eventually it's going to slow down. It keeps putting out these little leaves. I showed you a close-up on it in the last program. Little leaves around here, and I have to keep clipping those things off, and they go right back into the soil, and they're being turned right back into dirt is what they're doing. But what I like to do, even though I can leave a lot of leaves on here, I like to give it that palm tree effect. So I'm always cutting leaves off of this stem as it grows up. And even though they are healthy leaves, if I cut a few of them off the bottom, it isn't going to hurt it. But what it'll do is it's going to start pushing its energy more towards the growing tips, because it has a huge trunk, an excellent root system, and I repotted it into a compost-rich soil. This plant has been living for years in a potting mix and being supplemented by compost tea. Compost tea is a wonderful thing, but nothing can hold a candle to actual compost in the soil. It's kind of like you can either eat good food or you can take vitamins and supplements. That's how I think of compost as compared to compost tea. Sometimes I don't have a choice. I have to use compost tea, but I have a choice now. I made some compost, brought it in here, mixed it in with all my plants, and I'm getting some really good results, and I want to keep you updated on these as it goes. Yeah, it's a very beautiful plant. Now what's happening is not all of these stalks are growing at the exact same rate. Some of them, like this one on the right, is growing very slow. Whereas the one right behind it, that looks like a big fat stinking asparagus stalk, it's going a little nuts. Now, I have no control over that. I could cut the fast growing one back, but it would cause that one to fork. And that's not what I want. So I'm just going to let them go the way that they want. And even though it's not exactly symmetrical, a little wabi-sabi isn't going to hurt anything. As a matter of fact, I think it makes it look rather unique. And this is what I was clipping off, and I'm continuing to clip off. It's just new shoots that want to come out. They're really not that healthy, and so I just removed them. Not a big deal. Yeah. And you got a little eye booger. Let me get that for you. Yeah, that's what I do. See? That came off of you. Yeah, it did. And whereas most years I start out my vegetable garden in early spring, well actually late winter. I start a lot sooner than most folks. Well, that's because I like to get a nice healthy start. You've seen on my programs where I like to get a nice healthy start. I get a very tough looking plant, take it outside. It doesn't have to start from a little seedling, so I get production a lot sooner. Well, I'm considering, ooh, smell-o-vision. I wish I had this. Now I'm considering not doing that this year. I'm not because with one plant in particular, this is the result of some seeds that were sent by you, and they initiated here in the Voodoo Garden, so I thought I'd speak about this here in the Voodoo Garden. I was having a problem for a few years. I grew a tomato one year. It was so incredibly delicious, and I use the word incredibly precisely this time because I ate the tomato. I was floored. I've eaten a lot of tomatoes in my life. I'm an old dude, okay, and I've eaten a lot of tomatoes because I like tomatoes. So I've tried a lot. And one year I even had what was called Project Tomato, where I grew, I don't know, it's like 20 different tomatoes outside. Somebody sent me some seeds for 20 different heirloom tomatoes. I grew so many different tomato plants. It was just insane. Well, of all the tomato plants I've ever grown, I came across one that was called Boxcar Willie, just by chance. And somebody sent me the seeds. I grew it, I tasted it, and my mouth just came alive. My taste buds woke up like they were in a slumber, and I thought, this in my mouth, this is a tomato that for the ages. And because we all like different foods for different reasons. Well, I like this Boxcar Willie because because I just beat my plants. No, I like it because it was acidic, but not too acidic. It wasn't very sweet. I don't like sugary sweet tomatoes. That's just not my thing. It had, I pinched your butt. It had the right amount of juice, not too much. I don't like a lot of goo in my tomatoes, but I don't like them real dry and fleshy like a paste tomato. So this had a good balance, just a little bit of goo and a lot of flesh, old-fashioned tomato flavor. When you slice it, the flesh actually has juice in it. So yeah, you know what I'm talking about. So it was a good old-fashioned tomato and enough acidity that you can can the tomatoes without adding anything to add acidity to the tomatoes, which means you don't have to pressure can them. You can hot water bath can them because the acidity is high enough in these. Now, that being said, they were a smaller tomato. They were approximately this size. And this is the size, a hand-sized tomato, which is a good size, mid-sized tomato. They were kind of flattened on the top a little bit, and that's what a Boxcar Willie is, a true Boxcar Willie from what I understood. Now, there are a lot of different Boxcar Willies out there, and I think what it is people are growing different kinds of tomatoes, calling them Boxcar Willies. Now, I bought more Boxcar Willie seeds because I didn't save seeds from those. I didn't think about it, and I thought, oh, I should have saved those seeds so I can grow them. Well, I didn't save the seeds, and for years I've been trying to find that particular type of Boxcar Willie. I've been unable to do it. Last year, total fail. I had more tomatoes than I could swing a dog at. And all of 20 gallons of tomatoes off one plant. And not a single one of them did I enjoy because it didn't have that flavor that I was so spoiled into enjoying. Well, last winter, 3 people sent me seeds for Boxcar Willie. Now, I didn't know, they were people I trust. And they said these are true Boxcar Willie plants. Now, I didn't want to grow a whole bunch of plants, so what I did was I mixed them all together. And I picked out a couple seeds and planted them here in the Voodoo Garden, started out tomato plants, and I got 2 plants. And I transplanted them outside. And if you tune into the Praxis 55712 channel, you saw these really horrid looking embarrassments of a plant that were in tiny pots, and they were all kind of wilty and weather worn, and they looked like they got on crack and they went through detox. Well, I took them outside anyway, and for some reason I had a hard time growing them in here. I took them outside, planted them in the garden. We placed bets on which was going to die first. Well, turns out they didn't die at all. They flourished, and boy did they flourish. They went beyond flourish, and what they did is produced this. You got to come in and you got to take a really close look at this because this is something you have to see up close to appreciate. This is the Boxcar Willie, the alleged Boxcar Willie that's growing out there. It's a large beefsteak, and this is not the big one. I have some out there that put this one to shame. Now, I don't grow competition. I don't grow for size. That doesn't mean anything to me. That's just a boast for size. And some people do, and I don't fault them for that. That's just not me. I grow because I want something that's delicious. And so it doesn't matter to me whether it's big or small. If it tastes good, that's what I'm growing for. And these ones, I thought, oh no, they're not really Boxcar Willie because they're way, way too big. Turns out they are. I know you're not believing me. You're saying, nope, nope, Boxcar Willie don't get that big. Well, I'm not going to argue with you because in my experience, they don't as well. Now, I'm going to move the camera. Hold on. Here's one. Yep. It's nothing too remarkable as far as beefsteak tomatoes go. This came off the vine, and we're having a drought year right now. So I'm having to water these frequently. And then over here, these all came off the same plant. So you can see that the tomatoes differ a little bit in looks. Like this one has deeper ribs. Yeah, and I had that one blew off, and it was green when it blew off, so it's still ripening. I like to wait until they're very, very ripe to pick them because that's when you get the best flavor. Well, I picked these, I sliced into them, and yes, my taste buds remembered that. This is the Boxcar Willie flavor, so that's what I got here. And so there you have it. I don't have any explanation for it. What I was getting at in the beginning is I'm going to take these tomatoes and eat them, and I'm going to either save the seeds, and they don't have a lot of seeds. That's the bad part is I can't save a lot of seeds and give them away. What I'm going to do is I'm going to save seeds from one of the good ones, and I'm going to grow that one and see what happens next year and see if I get the exact same thing and if it has the same flavor. That is going to tell me, because if it's an heirloom, it's going to breed true to the fruit. If it's a hybrid, I may not get the exact same thing. So if I don't get the exact same thing, I know that I got hybrid seeds and somebody was mistaken, and I don't fault them because I got a good plant. But whatever this is, if I can breed true and keep breeding this thing over and over every year, save the seed, grow it, save the seed, grow it, like I did with the Prax cherry, I'm going to find out what kind of plant this eventually turns out to be. Now, the plant itself doesn't just put out a few big tomatoes. It loads itself with tomatoes. That is an issue for me because I have to support this darn thing, and it is heavy. It has clusters of giant beefsteak tomatoes, not just one here, one there. They come in clusters. Yeah, you'll have to tune into the other program to see what they look like because I'll be picking some, I think, on this next week and showing what they look like. But anyway, that's why we have little red pumpkins here in the Garden of Voo, and I'll be growing them inside the Voodoo Garden, showing you how I do those. So we'll see how they do. Hopefully the plants will do better this winter than they did last winter. I'm also going to be doing pepper plants and other sorts of things. Not all tropical stuff in the Garden of Voo. I'm going to be growing some more vegetables. Anyway, that's it. Yep, I have some transplanting to do. I'm not going to have you just stick around to watch me dig into the dirt because that's really not very fun. But I wanted to show you a couple things and also explain the little redness in the room. And I think that pretty much does it. I will see you in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. So go out, have fun, enjoy the sun. I will see you in 2 weeks right back here in the Voodoo Garden. If you have any questions or concerns, post it in the comment section below. I will give you the very best answer I possibly can. Yes, there is no tiny R here. What happened is when I went over there to grab the camera, I put the tomatoes by his head, he sniffed them and walked away. He has less interest in my tomatoes than I have. He's my best buddy, but we don't see eye to eye on tomatoes. What can you do? Have a great day, everybody. This is Ray and his little friends. We are out of here.